Okay, everybody, let's continue. We're going to talk now more specifically about colons and dashes. Just a quick reminder that the whole objective here is to be able to use semicolons, colons, and dashes properly. Let's talk about colons and dashes. So, colon rules. The colon, this is like the two periods, right? Like it's two periods, one on top of another. These generally act as an introductory device, okay? Rule 1 is that it can introduce a list of items following an independent clause. So if you have a complete sentence, you can use a colon to then introduce a list, like this. Astronaut trainees go through the following 5 phases of training: classroom work, flight training, survival training, mission training, special training. Notice that astronaut trainees go through the following 5 phases of training is a complete sentence. And so you can then use the colon here to introduce this long list. Rule 2 for colons is that they're used to introduce a quotation that is formal or lengthy and does not contain some sort of like he said this, she said that, Joe said, Joe responded, etc. Example, the speaker began with these words, colon, I have never been so honored in all my life. So notice that that's not the speaker said, comma, I have never, right? That's not when you use the colon. You only use it when you don't have somebody said or responded or questioned or whatever. Continuing with colon rules, the third one is that it introduces a sentence that summarizes or explains the sentence that comes before it, okay? The technician provided her with one piece of advice. Check the water level often, okay? This second sentence here, which is a complete sentence, is directly explaining the advice from the previous sentence, okay? And because it's not like the semicolon, the meaning is the same. In this case, it is a direct explanation, okay? So that's the big difference. And then the other thing that I want you to see is that after the colon, you do capitalize the first word, okay? I'll give you that note here at the bottom. Rule 4, colons separate 2 related clauses that are related because they can be in either order. So if you think about the way we switched adjectives to decide do we use a comma or not, you can do the same thing with colons. The most important part of my personal life is my connection to family. The most important part of my career is my sense of fulfillment. You could flip-flop these two things. They are related to one another, but I could say the most important part of my career is my sense of fulfillment, colon, the most important part of my personal life is my connection to family, right? Like I can interchange these two sentences, and because they are both related to one another, I can separate them with a colon. There's your note, okay? If what follows the colon is a complete sentence, you need to capitalize the first letter of that first word after the colon. If what follows the colon is a list, you do not capitalize. And then going back to the semicolon, you know that if it's after a semicolon, you do not capitalize unless it's a proper noun. Dash rules, the dash, which you use very, very little, but you might see from time to time. The dash is used to set off material in 2 main ways, okay? And I want you to note that a dash and a hyphen are very, very similar, but the dash is a short line and the hyphen is a little bit longer line, okay? Hyphens are really specifically used with numbers and with some words, like when you have like pre-existing, that's when you use a hyphen. A dash, though, is used to indicate an abrupt change of thought, okay? A dramatic interrupting idea or a summary statement. For example, I cannot believe what the barber did to my beautiful hair. Oh, I don't even want to think about it, right? So you just have this like abrupt change of thought, and so you use the dash to set that off. Oatmeal, which tastes delicious with honey and raisins, makes a nutritious breakfast, right? You have this dramatic kind of interrupting idea. You could actually use a dash here. You could also use a comma here, and they both ways would be correct. To eat twice its body weight in a day, this is the feeding goal of the hummingbird. Okay, so a summary statement following the dash. The second dash rule is that it sets off non-essential appositives, non-essential modifiers, or non-essential parenthetical phrases when they are long, when they're already punctuated, or when you want to be dramatic. The ruby-throated hummingbird, a bird that lives in woods, orchards, and gardens but moves to the forests in the winter, eats nectar and small insects. Okay, so again, you could use dashes in the exact same way that you could set this off with commas. Some of the stories in the mall, for example, the Bathing Beauty's bath shop, never have any customers. You could use a dash in the same place that you use a comma in these types of instances. Okay? I think one more example. Yeah, the movie's 3 box office blockbusters were not among our favorites. So hopefully this makes a little bit more sense on dashes. That's it, guys. If you have got semicolons, colons, and dashes, if you get them, move on with the lesson, do some practice. If not, review either of these videos. Make sure that you've got your notes. And if you're really lost on any of these pieces of punctuation, let me know and let's work together on them.